Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel, Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle. I've been known by a few names, so I'm going to continue on with the aspects of, finding the silver lining and the readings thereof, so that way there's the understanding, whatever part this is at. So in reference to the ER dog and stuff like that. So, and then Archie. So in reference to the ER dog, there's a few different points in reference to my pet, my original pet, Methuselah. It's the first pet that I had. Got it tattooed. That is Methuselah, a ghost corn snake. And that particular pet that I had went to an exotic pet store off of Huebner, I think. No, not off of Huebner. It was near Braesview and Military Highway in the Lincoln Green apartment complex when living there at the time. And he did get out. However, because I had Methuselah, my now dead ex-husband, then he wanted a pet. And he decided he wanted a prairie dog. And I looked at him when he said that. And he said, well, it'd be cool, because we were in Petland and wherever that one was. And he saw it and he thought, oh, that'd be such a great pet. And I looked at him and I said, that looks like a rodent. That's what that looks like. And my now dead ex-husband said, no, like they can be really cool pets. I looked at him and I said, no, they can't. That looks like a rodent. That's what that looks like. And we discussed that ish. In the end, he wound up picking up the prairie dog. And so I asked the employees at Petland, what is that? And whoever spoke it with said, well, it's a wild animal and you can train it to be friendly. What do you mean it's a wild animal? Like, you mean like... My now dead ex-husband said, you don't need to worry about that. I said, I think this is a really bad idea. At least with Methuselah, Methuselah goes in a tank and is, no. My now dead ex-husband thought it would be a great idea to get a freaking prairie dog. And to me, that just seemed dumb. I would guesstimate there are people who know what prairie dogs are and probably could agree with me saying that it is a rodent. Irony in regards to my dead ex-husband in that regard. Just pointing out certain ironies and, little coinky dinks in that regard. And so the employees at Petland, told my now dead ex-husband what to do, how to get that prairie dog to actually like him. I told my now dead ex-husband, you really shouldn't do it. Like, you really, really shouldn't. No, it'd be so cool. We could be like the only people in the apartment complex who has a prairie dog. Oh, you mean there's no rodents anywhere in the state of Texas other than you? In my opinion. And so my now dead ex-husband had to have that prairie dog. Well, the employees said, put like your dirty clothes into the prairie dog's cage, cover it up, let it get used to your scent, and keep it in like an area where you're constantly at, so that way it gets used to you. 2 days later, oh wait, let me finish. After 2 weeks, the employee said you could start to try to pet it. And then in another 2 weeks, you should be able to, actually pick the prairie dog up. 2 days after getting it to the apartment, my now dead ex-husband was petting the prairie dog through the cage. And then he opened the cage. And then he was surprised when he reached into the cage after 2 days that the prairie dog bit him. Then he was mad that the prairie dog bit him. I, on the other hand, I thought it was funny. I knew not to laugh at that time. I do acknowledge that. So I drove him to Fort Sam Houston to go to the emergency room. And I told him I was not going to wait in the emergency room with him. And so dropped him off. I was pregnant at that. No. I wasn't pregnant yet. No, I think I was. No. It was right before getting pregnant, that whole thing. Anyway, took him to Fort Sam Houston, dropped him off at Brooke Army Medical Center, now San Antonio Medical Center. And I told him, when they're done with you, call me and I'll, come and pick you up or whatever. Well, he showed up at the apartment several hours later. He didn't want to wait. He didn't want to call. And he got a taxi. Shows up and he was mad. We're going to take this prairie dog back, blah, 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 blah. You're dumb. Ooh, that's so bad. What happened? And so my now dead ex-husband looks at me and says, "Can you believe that the army doctors laughed at me?" Pray tell what? Did any of the army doctors ask you why you would have a rodent? And my now dead ex-husband said, "That is beside the point. No, that's pretty much like the exact point that I made when at Petland. You don't know." Go ahead. So apparently they had passed him around. And he had a whole bunch of doctors that were like, so tell me what happened. And my now dead ex-husband had to explain to a whole bunch of doctors. And at one point I said it was probably because they didn't believe that anybody, number one, would want to have a prairie dog as a pet. Number two, probably if there were any that actually knew people who had something kind of like that as a pet, probably figured, well, you had to have it for a while. And then when they were told, 2 days, then that's beside the point. I think that's exactly the point that I am making. So had to take the prairie dog back because he was losing it over the prairie dog that he wanted, that he didn't listen to the employees about, that he did also. It was ridiculous. And so afterwards, that's when wound up getting Nick and Princess, the miniature schnauzers, instead of real dogs. I mean, they were good dogs. I don't deny that. It's just, I am accustomed to half husky, half collies, full huskies, Rottweilers, Dobermans, pit bulls, English bulldogs, mastiffs. Let's see what other German shepherds. You see a theme in that pattern of like dogs that I grew up playing with. And then when in Illinois, then I had a friend who had a half wolf, half Malamute. So, then there's that. So, miniature schnauzers. I mean, they were good dogs. They were. Just, I couldn't pet them the way I would pet a dog that I was accustomed to. Weimaranders, that's another one. Dogs that are like 50 pounds and above, And so that just didn't go well. Now, in reference to that, or in regards to that page, in reference to, okay, so in regards to Archie, my ex-boyfriend, Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., had called my biological father a Chinese Archie Bunker. Mike, in turn, called Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., Baby Huey. Alright, whatever. Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., said that Mike was like a Chinese Archie Bunker because of him being first generation Chinese, and then him having a chair that was basically his, although realistically it was a couch. And so you just didn't go there. And it was just one of those, well, I understand that everybody has their own like particular thing. It's not like it's just one like there are plenty of people who have their, that is their location, that is their thing. You don't mess with that because you will get out of it. And so when Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., had called Mike Chinese Archie Bunker to his face, first off, I was surprised that Mike didn't just cold cock him. I was surprised that he just didn't pop, 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 pop. I didn't know how he didn't do that. Because, in my thoughts, I was like, wow, that is some self-control. You are very well medicated in comparison to when I grew up with you as a child. Because when I was a child, I'm just saying, just gonna throw that out there. And so, Mike had essentially labeled a bunch of my exes in regards to different individuals. So, like Patrick Kennedy, he was Meathead. That's who he called in reference to that. Pretty Boy, well, that was Sean. There is that. And then, what was it? Philip, what was it? Oh, Mullet was who he called my ex girlfriend, Pam. As far as Philip Olmsted, he was just like that annoyance. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, we're here. On that, in that regard. So, the different fish in the fish tank when I was growing up in New Jersey, there were a lot of fish in there. There were different types of mollies in there. Zebra mollies, black mollies, gold mollies, speckled mollies, so on and so forth, different tetras and all that. And there were certain ones that Mike had named. That was just what he called them. And so Mike called one particular fish Aunt Jemima because he said it reminded him of someone that he knew when he was growing up and in foster care and orphanages. And so that was his reason that he said. And I just had a field day with her because I put my finger on the top of the water and she'd give me kisses. She'd give me kisses. And anytime I came to the front of the tank, she'd just straight up to, it's happened at aquariums, that sort of thing. I put my finger at the top. She'd give me kisses. And she'd go, so then I started putting my hand in the water. And she would just swim in my hand like it was a cave. And it's like, oh, look at your little belly, look at your little tail. She was like 4.5, 5 inches long and like 1.5 inches tall. And that was like at her skinny area. And she had huge fins. And so, you know, she was so cute. I mean, she just sitting there in my hand, and I actually was able to pet her. Like, I know you're not supposed to technically pet fish, but it is what it is. I did. It's a little baby. Well, then Anna, my biological mother, was like, hey, we should add more fish to the aquarium. And she brought home convict fish. That's what she called them, Bonnie and Clyde. By the end of the week, there were no other mollies in the fish tank. It was only Bonnie and Clyde. And then she was surprised that only Bonnie and Clyde were in the fish tank. And I dealt with certain things after this, because when she was like, I can't believe that all the other fish are not in the aquarium, I simply said, with a name like convict fish, what did you expect was going to happen? And she didn't really like that. That would be what, occurred. And, I was considered rude for that. I didn't really think that was rude. I figured, they are called convict fish. And you put them in there with mollies, and they, did their thing. And so, in that regard, then there was a point in time where Mike had been very upset because he was called a Samoan. And I asked, why did somebody think that you were Samoan? And he said, various aspects. He had thrown a table across the and this was in Texas that he did that. And so I had already done that in Illinois. Nonetheless, he did that because somebody said he looked like a Samoan, and I asked what a Samoan looked like, and he told me. And so he basically described himself, and I was like, so Samoans are like, according to Mike, as he said, they're like a certain height and a certain shoulder width, like a minimum, okay? And then, he went on and he described certain tempers. Go on. Tell me more. Then he said that Samoans, like, there are short ones, but they're still like extremely strong. Continue. And then he went on about a few other things, and everything that he was saying, it's one of those, okay. So fiercely protective. Okay. Extremely strong. Okay. If you anger, will pick up furniture and throw. Okay. Continue. And so he did, and everything, it was just, well, and so I had made a joke to try to like diffuse that situation. I was like, maybe it's because you were raised where you didn't eat like rice and only rice. And then he just looked at me and then, rawr. And it was one of those, so what you just described. I mean, I am sure there are plenty of Samoans who are calm until you get them angry. Although at the same time, I can't think of like any human being that after a certain point, if you push them so far, they're going to get angry. I'm no different in that regard. And so Mike was very upset and was with us. Calm down. It's okay. Don't you throw this table. I had it custom made. I'm just saying, not that you're going to break it nonetheless. So then, in multiple times he had called me a bitch. And it was one of those, well, I was born in the year of the dog, zodiac-wise, by the Chinese aspect. So, yeah, okay, yeah. What do you mean? Well, I was born in the year of the dog. What do you call a bitch? So, by female dog standards, by veterinary standards, you call a female dog a bitch. So, yeah, you've called me that for a real long time. Anna's called me that a lot. And so, I mean, and you should be offended by that. Oh. And by the time he told me that I was supposed to be offended by this name of bitch, by the way, that was like 2012. Two-star general calling me a royal fucking cunt. Bitch. Which of those two is going to be technically, I mean, by technicalities, but at the same time, and so it was one of those, and I grew up in New Jersey. I've heard that a few times. I was in the army. Maybe I am not the only person who has been in the army of the United States of America's Armed Forces who could say, having been called the word bitch, and not even having been born in the year of the dog as a female. Possibly that could have happened a lot. Or it could have just been said. And I mean, probably not just the Army. There might be another branch somewhere in the United States of America's Armed Forces. Maybe there's a law enforcement officer somewhere that has used that word. Possibly. Maybe a fire department guy or an EMS guy. Possibly. I don't know. I was just going to throw this out there. It's a possibility, and they may not have even been born in the year of the dog as a female. Although I did tell my son one day, he was upset about something, and he explained something, and we were talking, and I said, well, hey, I got something for you. And he goes, what? I said, if anybody ever calls you a son of a bitch, you know what you could do? He goes, no, what? You could say, yeah, I am, because my mom was born in the year of the dog, and she's a female, being a mom, having given birth and all that sort of stuff. And so, if somebody calls you a son of a bitch, well, by technicalities. He just kind of looked at me with that teenage male look of, all right, that is kind of funny. And it's like, yeah, that's true. And what's just, people want to use words and all that. Well, just do that. And he just looked at me, just like, oh my God, Mom, seriously? Well, why not? If you can't handle things certain ways, and so he just kind of, yeah. So, in regards to my children's grandfather's spiritual evolution, he started being born as a Southern Baptist when he was in Alabama, Steele to be specific, though he grew up on Chandler Mountain. Um, his wife that he met, well, obviously, but he met his wife in the Dominican Republic, and she was a Catholic Santerian, um, but a Dominican Catholic, to be specific, which, yes, Catholicism is a specific way. However, there are certain attributes which certain cultures take the, and it's not in a negative way at all. I'm just pointing that realistic aspect out, that individuals that are from other countries tend to take their spirituality and religion to another level. And I'm not denouncing anybody in regards to the United States of America, because there are those that take their religion and spirituality very seriously. However, I know that there are certain individuals who very much understand that aspect. And so then Grandpa Nichols found out that he had Cherokee in him. He started studying Native American spirituality, and he asked me a bunch of questions. And so I discussed that with him. Same thing with Grandma Nichols. And so then when he found out that on his mom's side that she had no, it was on his dad's side. And so I had to tell him, well, in traditional Hebrew, they don't usually, I mean, they do acknowledge it in certain regards, but usually it's more passed on through the mitochondrial aspect. And he just kind of, oh, and I said, but, I mean, there are reformed movements, and if you feel moved to study, that sort of aspect, there's nothing wrong with that. And so, in regards to Grandma and Grandpa Nichols' children, there was Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen, who became a non-denominational, whereas Tony Walker Nichols, the eldest brother, he had been an atheist, but then he became a reborn Southern Baptist. And then Susie Marie Nichols Lopez had been in the Catholic Church, but then she went to a few other Christian churches. And then my now dead ex-husband just absolutely refused to believe in any form of religion or spirituality whatsoever. He would purposefully start problems with people who had religious and spiritual beliefs. Not just me, by the way. There were some people that I didn't know he had been doing this to, because usually, apparently, when they would show up, I was going and getting groceries, or I was running errands, or whatever it was. So one day he was at the lab, and I was at the house, my house, obviously in San Antonio, and the doorbell rang. I opened the door. There was an older male there with a female. And the guy looked at me and he said, oh, looking for, and he said my now dead ex-husband's name. And the guy was like, is he here? And I looked at him and I said, no, he's at work. You're holding a Bible. And the guy goes, yes, I'm preaching the word of God. And I looked at him and I said, to that guy? And the guy looked at me and goes, yeah. I looked at the guy and I said, are you talking about now my dead ex-husband then? And the guy goes, yes, trying to convert him. And I looked at the guy and I asked him if I could come outside. It was my property, but I asked him if he would mind if I stepped outside to speak with him. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. The female that was with him was standing at the corner area about to go towards the driveway in my house in San Antonio. And introduced myself to both of them and asked them if they actually wanted to go inside. And they were like, no, we're fine right here. I said, okay. So we started talking, and I explained to them that my now dead ex-husband, he would purposefully goat people into making them think that he wanted to have something to do with them in regards to religion and spirituality, just to cause problems, just to annoy them, to string them along and that sort of stuff. And the guy looked at me and he said, well, what makes you think that? So, okay. And I listed a whole bunch of things. I was like, did he do this, this, and or this? The guy looks at me and goes, yes, yes, kind of, yes, yes, kind of. Did he do, and I go down another, and he looks at me and he goes, yes. So this is what's going to happen if you wind up seeing, at this point, my now dead ex-husband. He will do this, and this, just to cause you problems. So if you don't want to waste your time, this is my recommendation. So then the guy goes, well, what about you? I go, what about me? He goes, are you religious or spiritual? Oh, of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've studied quite a few things. And we actually wound up talking for several hours. And then at some point in time, I told the guy about my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And he was just, what? Oh, yeah. How'd you have that happen? Told him about basic training and all that. Oh my God. So, there is that. And so what can I do to help? And he goes, well, and so then I asked, in reference to my now dead ex-husband, I had asked the guy, I said, why would you go and try with that one? Like, realistically. And the guy pulled out his Bible, because he put it down for a little bit and picked it up. And he pulled out, it was 2 Corinthians, and I can't remember which chapter and which verse. And it said, I charge you to go out and make followers. And I looked at the guy and I said, so you are taking reference from older scriptures that have not been updated in a very long time. Back when I started going to church, specifically in Sunday school back in the early 80s, the church was saying that the texts were over 2000 or at the 2000 year mark. If back in the 1980s, they were talking about that being the definitive time, are you telling me that in this current time, and at that time is like 2003, are you saying that that is the same sort of stuff? The guy looks at me and he goes, oh my God. I said, okay, that's not answering my question. I'm just asking, and I hope you don't take this as me being rude. I'm genuinely asking you. If you are going to go off of the precepts in regards to words that, yes, have very good meanings and intentions. However, if you're going to go off of that, and back in the 1980s, I was told that it was 2,000 years old of words put together. And that's not including quite a bit. You do know that, right? The guy looked at me and goes, oh my God, what do you mean? I looked at him, I said, have they found this? Have they found this book, this book, this book, this book, this book? He goes, there's an excavation that's supposed to be going on right now about that. Well, if they haven't found this book, this book, this book, this book, this book, this book, and I just list off a bunch. I said, and it's not in there, then, you're going off of older stuff. And because of the aspects of the older language, can you even have that translated to this modern era? And the guy looks at me and he goes, oh my God. And I look at him and I'm like, so I'm not being rude. I hope you are genuinely not offended by what I'm telling you. The guy goes, no, I am. Nope, I am not. I am not offended at all. Okay, cool. So, I'm just letting you know, I very much am. I was raised in a Presbyterian church. I was baptized Methodist, and then I was baptized Presbyterian. And, I was the first live baby Jesus in the drive-thru at Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. I went through a whole bunch of things, and the guy's just like, "Oh my God, are you serious? Like right now?" And I was like, "No, not right now. Back when I was a baby. That's when I was the live baby Jesus. Not right now. I'm an adult." The guy looks at me. He's like, he didn't laugh like that, but and I look at the guy and the female at the she just kind of kept taking a few steps back, and I was like, "Oh, be careful." And she goes, "Why?" And I go, "Because you're about to hit the edge of the sidewalk. There's a little bit of a dip, and I don't want you to twist your ankle." She looks back and she's like, "Oh, okay, cool, thanks." I was like, "No problem." So we talked for a little bit, and the guy just, "Well, it says here," and I go, "Okay, I understand that says that here." And we were very genuinely discussing things. And I said, "However, again, those words, I mean, yes, they're still used in this era, of course. However, like this era is not the exact same as when those books were written, and you're missing a lot of books." The guy was like, "Well, what books are?" Well, and I listed a bunch of names. I can't remember them now. And I said, and on top of that, that sort of stuff is from, like, again, a long time ago. And there's a lot of people that have the name Jesus now. So, you know, how do you know it wasn't that? You have to find the individual that has, that sort of stuff. I see the irony now. And so, just on and on and on in that regard. And the guy was like, "Well, why would you believe that?" And I said, "Well, again, how old is that Bible?" And, "Well, it was written a while ago." "Okay. And since this modern era has taken form, and, I mean, back then, they did this, and this, and nowadays you can do this, and this instead of," and I go over a few things, and the guy was just like, oh my God. And, okay, so do you have any other questions? Because I'm trying to prevent you from having to deal with my now dead ex-husband. And the guy was like, I really thought that he was being genuine. No. Don't believe my now dead ex-husband. And the guy was like, is he really that bad? And I looked at him, and I looked around the corner just to make sure that, like, my now dead ex-husband wasn't going to be pulling up soon. I said, he's not a good person. Like, at all. I can't really put into words why he's not a good person, but he's not a good person. And you shouldn't trust my now dead ex-husband. And the guy was just like, well, why should I trust you? And well, that's a legitimate question. I cannot tell a lie. That's simple. And the guy was like, that's funny. No. I cannot tell a lie. I couldn't tell a lie before my head injury. I cannot tell a lie now. Well, give me an example. Okay, so there was this one time and this was before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And he's like, oh my God, seriously? Yes. Which part? You mean like the head injury part or the pre-head injury part? He's like, no, go ahead. Just go ahead. Come on. It's like, okay, so I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He goes, okay. I was like, and I was at Willow Valley with my biological family. And I hadn't eaten. Like, my biological mother and biological father took my biological sister to go eat. And I had to not. I wasn't allowed to because I did something wrong. And they had a bag of Hershey Kisses that were in the hotel room. And after a certain point, I just got so hungry, I couldn't help it. Like, I was just hungry. Been like over 2 days since I had eaten. And so I ate, and then once I had one, well, then, it's Hershey Kisses, and they're candy, and it's good. And so I thought that I could be, like super ninja in a hotel room and hide the candy wrappers from the Hershey Kisses at the bottom of the hotel trash can. And the guy was just, oh my God, seriously? Yes, yes. Oh, but I'm not done yet. Oh, go ahead. And so then I had thrown the bag at the bottom of the hotel trash can. Like the ice bin is bigger than those hotel trash cans back then, at least. And so, just saying. And so I thought that I could get away with it and nobody would know. And the guy looks at me and goes, okay, and then what? And then in the morning, Mike woke up, went to go get a piece of candy, couldn't find the bag, went looking around, went to the trash can, found the trash can, and then as soon as he realized, he went over to me and I was like, polygraph test? And the guy looked at me, he was like, you said what? Yeah, I just said polygraph test, and that trying to lie, and obviously that was a fail. And then I came clean, and I was like, so I ate the candy, and then I got in trouble for eating the candy, and the guy looked at me, he's like, oh my God. And the guy was just, okay, you know what? Thank you for letting me know. And we talked a little bit more, and then he went on, and so, it was just one of those, it is what it is. So, in that regard, though also, the yeah, that's that. And so, in regards to the aspects of the unexpected match, well, that's obvious that why that it wasn't realistically expected, nor needed realistically in that regard. However, yeah, my now dead ex-husband had very much acknowledged, not just to me, I mean, he acknowledged that to Susie Marie Nichols Lopez that he was cheating on me. And she did not acknowledge that at certain points. And it was just one of those, I am so tired of how many people have lied about, just reality. I really am. I'm tired of having to defend myself repeatedly. I'm tired of having to be ostracized repeatedly. I'm tired of being ignored repeatedly. I am tired of the fact that instead of just knowing, at this point in time, in this era of exhausted by it. And then with my now dead ex-husband, I am so exhausted by that, with how many. And then on top of which, my Medal of Honor art project that I was working on, and having to step forward in that regard before I was ready, after the amount of garbage that I have had to deal with. I am not happy. Because at the very minimum, it could have been, hey, so, we know, but no, I don't even get that. So, you know, and then especially the aspects of the problems with my Medal of Honor art project, on top of what occurred in reference to my daughter, and then making sure my son being safe. I hope so much for all of those who caused malicious issues to my Medal of Honor art project. If you are not able to be in the compassionate, honorable, or righteous ones, I have a whole bunch of hope for you. But understand and comprehend that hope goes in reference to, I hope you get to enjoy the knowledge, understanding, and comprehension causing malicious issues to my Medal of Honor art project. I will not divorce you from my dead ex-husband. Enjoy your spiritual marriage. Any malicious actions in reference to my Medal of Honor project, I can only overlook so much. That, on top of everything else that occurred. And if I'm incorrect and there was no problems caused to my Medal of Honor art project, despite what occurred in Montana, 2017. If I am inaccurate, then I apologize. However, hypothetically, if it's just a coinkydink that I happen to be accurate and there were problems caused to my Medal of Honor art project on top of what I was already dealing with in reference to my son and my daughter, well, I'm not going to calm down until justice occurs. And I have the right to be infuriated for others' choice to act like my dead ex-husband. And by the way, for those who read in certain regards, my now dead ex-husband had done all that sort of stuff. Well, it was only him who did all that to my children and I. If you had more than just you, like meaning more than just one person to cause those problems, you proved my point. But why would you want to emanate my dead ex-husband? I mean, realistically. Seriously. It's not like he accomplished anything without me anyway. Hey, look at that. Have the right to be angry and infuriated and full of rage at this point when it comes to my Medal of Honor project. On top of what occurred in reference to my son. Just saying. I mean, unless somebody can tell me truthfully why I shouldn't be. And if there are individuals that I knew in the state of Texas that caused problems to my Medal of Honor art project, well, found out that there's a bunch of places that are closed down.